So in the past, I have done, big think pieces when I was on the left about Pride Month and why we need to celebrate Pride Month. But a very real thing that I have looked into since being, quote, on the right, I would say more center, is the fact that June is Men's Mental Health Month, and we need to talk about it. So welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie A.B. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into today's video. First of all, this video might have some hard truths, but here's what I want you guys to know. I have 2 sons. I love my husband. I love my sons. Okay. And I have had experience with the worst of the worst men and the best of the best men. Okay. It's possible to meet good guys. Okay. I know that, Instagram and TikTok would have a lot of women believing that there is no such thing as a good man, but they exist. Now, here's the thing. I used to hate men. I used to hate men so much. And I know you're sitting there like, I'm surprised by that. Yes, like I said, I was left while I was pregnant. I had a horrible stepdad growing up. Okay. I did not like men that much. Okay. To be honest, I don't think I like anybody. You know what I mean? Like, when I think about it, when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I hated men, but I also hated women. So, I don't know. As you have seen in the intro, sorry, it has to be silent, or maybe I can find some sort of iMovie music to go over top of it. I don't know yet. But, yeah, this is a big problem. Men's mental health and how much men are dying via unaliving themselves is a really big problem. Okay. And the fact that there are women who just say, when it's me when it's time to take a moment of silence for men, and then she's dancing to a very loud sound, yelling woo woo, that's very weird. And I don't know if you guys have watched my other videos before, but I have talked about how when I went to school in 2014, feminism was about equality. It was truly involving men in it too, because we wanted to mend the relationship between men and women rather than continuously harming it and perpetuating some negative feminist stereotype where they're just men hating women. You know what I mean? Women hating men. And I always say, I don't think we're in a patriarchy. Yes, I do think that obviously men had a lot more choice in the matter, but here's the thing. Guys, when women were only allowed to be nuns and moms or nurses, it's not like guys were having these big business dream jobs. Okay, they were literally building our countries. I know that obviously I think that if we're forced to participate in this capitalistic society, we should be able to do whatever we want as women. You know what I mean? Do I think we should be denouncing parenthood as much as we do? Absolutely not. But overall, I don't want people to have kids if they don't want to have kids. Okay? I just wish we were at a time where we supported the people who do want to have kids and not make, 10-hour think pieces on how they're horrible and uplifting the patriarchy, but I digress. The problem is that I think that the environment and society has lied to men for so long that they broke the relationships down between men and women for women to be mad enough to, as soon as divorce came legal, for everybody to start leaving their husbands, okay? Because don't tell me there wasn't domestic violence back then. That's not what the Bible tells you to do. The Bible does not tell you to cheat on your wife. The Bible does not tell you to yell and hit and do all of the things that, a typical 1950s, because that is what happened. It did. There was a lot more widows back then, females that ended up being widows. I wonder why. And as soon as divorce was legal, the widow rate went down. Okay. And then I think society started filling men's head with garbage about women to divide us. Ultimately, think all of the pressure that men have to be, quote, manly. And then all of a sudden in the 2000s, it was, masculinity is toxic. I cannot imagine what it's like to be a man right now. I'd be so confused. Even as a woman, I'm like, guys, you guys, like, so many women out there who call themselves feminists genuinely seem like the most misogynistic people to me. Like, saying that being a single mother is a humiliation ritual. Do you not think that fathers who are begging these women to get abortions are not going to send them your videos and say, look at this humiliation ritual you're about to go on? But anyways, that's besides the point. Growing up, men were always painted as stupid in cartoons. Like, it was always the competent leader mom and the stupid, incompetent, flimsy dad. And you know what? Fine, have that representation a couple of times, but that was the 90s sitcom, 90s cartoon. Think Peter Griffin, Homer Simpson, all of them had really stupid, like Fry. I love Futurama. But you know what I mean? It was, honestly, growing up, we were more conditioned for men to be dumb, I guess. But men are not dumb, okay? My husband, just because he's not, my husband is smart. He can spell and stuff. But just because he hasn't gone to school doesn't mean that he's not very incredibly smart. And I used to believe stuff like that people weren't as smart if they didn't go to school. Men are really smart. They're very capable. I just genuinely think the messages towards men and even the way that we've treated men, and I know we've treated women horribly, okay? I know what it was like to even grow up. When I show pictures of Paris Hilton to my daughter in 2000, and I'm like, this is the standard that we had to live up to. Isn't that silly? She's like, she looks skinnier than me. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So, I know women have been abused, okay? Women did not have freedom, okay? I know women have been treated like crap, but because we don't actually talk about the conversation of why are men acting like this, okay? Let's get down to the root of the cause of why women and men, because obviously women and men are very different, okay? And honestly, I just truly think this has been a long time coming of the powers that be that simply do not want us to get along. There are people on the internet, TikTok, leftists, who genuinely, they don't want men to live. They don't care. They don't care that men are unaliving themselves. They don't care about these things because either they've had men in their lives treat them horribly, okay? Or, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. And what I think is funny is that I also think that women are going through a female loneliness epidemic more than men, because men will sit there and be friends. But what men need forever, and their friends can do whatever the hell they want to do. And where women would be like, yeah, I don't want to be friends with someone like that. Men are like, yeah, I don't really care. I admire part of that, but maybe hold your friends accountable if you see them doing something shitty so we can improve this whole situation, okay? And I'm not against video games, but I think there are men out there who rely on the reward and satisfaction of winning something in a video game. See, my husband is the type of person that he doesn't like to play his video games until everything's done, which, sometimes he forgets to do, but for the most part, I very much appreciate that. I don't mind playing video games even myself. I used to play The Sims. I can't sit down anymore and play a video game. But I think that a lot of men rely on the reward and dopamine of video games and things like porn, things like that, to, get those receptors going. I can't think of the name. It's basically like men like to win things and they get dopamine from that. You know what I mean? So then when they play video games, it's giving them this false sense of accomplishment. But realistically, before, it would be accomplished by building a shed or fixing the plumbing or stuff like that, right? And I feel like men have been stripped almost entirely of their identities to the point where they don't have anything to hold on to. And it's a problem. I think also the way that we're raising boys, and a lot of times that I have seen in my life, like dads favoring the girls and moms favoring the sons. And it's just like, come on, guys, let's treat our kids fairly and raise them with the same, like, if the same moral outcome. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't think it's okay for your daughter to do it, don't let your son do it, or whatever. And if your son's doing something shitty, confront him on that. There's been times where my son has called another girl the fat. And I said, you know what, there's a lot of things that, like, if someone's making fun of you, if you're angry at someone, you know, I'm not opposed to defending yourself, but just don't use the word fat. It'll stick with them for their whole life. It's not nice. It's not a nice thing to call someone. So just please don't do that. And he was like, okay. And I, you know, we talked about it more, and he knows now. He's never said that again. He's never called anybody that again, because he knows that that's just something you don't say to people. You can get your point across without hurting people's feelings. And I think that that's a good thing that I'm teaching to my boys. Okay. Also, shaming boys. I feel like when, especially 90s kids were younger, it was like if boys ever had any interest in any female activity that is like, is it female to cook? No, I think we should be teaching our sons and our daughters from the beginning. And this is like, you know, a little bit of a talking to the people who think trad wives are just raising their daughter, whatever, trad wife. I'm not a fucking trad wife. But the left truly thinks that I'm raising my daughter so that, you know, that she wants to be a wife and a mother only, blah, blah, blah. No, I want my kids to be able to, all of the genders, clean their rooms, cook a meal, cook their, you know, at least when they leave, I want them to have 5 solid meals that are, you know, all around nutritious and that they can make easy. And then I want them to be able to clean their space, know what it's like to have good hygiene, stuff like that. I monitor my kids' social media, not social media, what they're doing online, because, you know, I've worked in schools. I know that the boys are being normalized, CORN, but you know what I'm saying, at a very early age. Like, I'm talking grade 5 and 6, and I will not allow that in my home, okay? And so I know that women have got a lot of mixed messages over the years, but man, so have men. And it's gotten to the point where people don't even realize that masculinity isn't toxic. It's just what happens with it, okay? I did not realize there was a difference between girls and boys. Like, I know that's so... Guys, the left does a number on you, okay? Propaganda is a hell of a drug, okay? When I had my daughter, and I let my daughter play with trucks, I was very dedicated to raising my kids so that they would choose what they want to play with. Not shaming them, not gendering things. I was very dedicated to that. And you know what? My sons are artists. Okay, my sons are artists. They are so smart. My kids don't spend every single waking minute on the computer, thank God. And they have tapped into so many things because I've just allowed them to be who they are. Okay? And taught them to be a good person, because no matter what sex it is, we need to be teaching the same types of morals and values to men and women. And women need different kind of care when it comes to their emotional health, and men need different kind of care when it comes to their emotional health. Okay? I thought that, like, boys were being raised to be violent until I had my kids. And my sons are not violent. My sons are not, well, my youngest is probably the equivalent to Jack from The Incredibles. But my second, he is a little angel. And even when he was a baby, he was very different than my daughter. We have a very good comparison is my husband has this video of my daughter, and she's playing doctor with the cat. And she has, like, the cat has like a bandage on, like a doctor play kit or whatever. And she's taking the thing to, like, hit the, you know, when they hit your knee or whatever, and she takes it and she hits the cat, and it's the most gentle hit you could ever imagine. If that was my son's, there would not even be a cat there, because they are just rougher. And I'm not saying that they hurt the cat, although if you don't teach them, they will. Okay, you teach them not to hurt the cat, but they were more rough, even from like 6 months on, okay? Like boys are just, they're different. They're like, and I have two very different boys. I have a boy who would lie to get into the military to fight a war, and I have a boy who would never want to go to war in his life, okay? And they are both very much men. And before I had my boy, I had no idea how, and then I worked in the schools. There's a difference between boys and girls, and boys need different care at different times. And I swear, girl, like I'm telling you, I have spent a lot of time with my boys in their very small years, trying to help them regulate emotion, figuring out how to get their anger out in good ways, blah, blah, blah. Whereas my daughter, when she was more, hitting teenage years, that's when she's needed me more. That's when she's needed my emotional support more. Whereas now the boys are, I say they're good, but you know what I mean, okay? I just feel as though instead of feminism or anything going in the way of making men and women unite, okay, we have driven them apart more and more and more, and that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they want. And we hear people like Drew Afalo say, oh, men are inherently violent. Well, why? If we think about biology, that's my favorite thing to look back at is biology, okay? When we think back to biology, why do you think men had to be more violent than women? Because they had to be violent to protect their communities. Things weren't like it is right now, okay? You actually had to, like, there was real enemies who could really come and destroy everything you had built and owned and caught for food and pillage you. Like, this is just things like men had to inherently deal with more than women, but it's not like women didn't have to deal with crap, okay? Like, you know what I mean? So if we wonder why men are inherently something, okay, let's go back into history. There are women that genuinely think that having children is some propaganda of the patriarchy. But our bodies are literally meant to have babies. And yes, people struggle with infertility. I have been one of them, okay? I've lost a lot of babies, okay? To have the 3 that I have it's a huge blessing, okay? Every month is a new, chance at getting pregnant until you're a certain age. So I'm just saying, it's really the only thing that's ever connected us to our ancestors throughout history. What is guaranteed? Birth and death. Maybe birth, not even, right? Death. But you know what I'm saying? It's such a funny time to be alive because we probably know how to unite everybody, but that's not convenient for them. It's more convenient to have women and men make a ton of money off of, like, Pearl, horrible. She is horrible. If you listen to Pearl, please don't listen to Pearl. God does not want you to cheat on your wife, okay? At all. Andrew Tate, my sons will not be listening to Andrew Tate. I'm sorry, they will be listening to people who are not them, okay? I don't want them to be on the far right listening to the furries. I don't want them to be listening to Andrew Tate either, okay? I have listened to him. People are like, oh, he's innocent. I have heard it from my mouth, the things that he encourages, and I've seen it. That is not a person a man should be looking up to, okay? If we want to talk about mental health, he is not promoting good mental health. He is one of the only people giving men a voice, though, and that is why this is happening. When we see one extreme of one side, we're going to see the other. I think the solution to this is finding better communication between men and women first and going from there. I worked in a domestic violence shelter, and I think the most admirable thing about it was the fact that we had a program that taught it helped the kids, but it taught the parents how to communicate more effectively. I just think we've been, raised in a weird environment where these weird relationships were normalized, and we didn't really have good relationships to look up to that much. They were always usually very unhealthy, very mean. Like, everybody loves Raymond. Like, do they even like each other? You know what I mean? I don't know. But overall, it's a good conversation starter. You know, this won't be my only video on men's mental health. You guys can tell me in the comments what you guys think would help mental health for men. And, you know, we can get the conversation going, because I am not afraid to say that this, you know, the mental health of men deeply impacts our society, you guys. Like, hello, I don't understand how these women with their own full faces get on the internet, call themselves feminists, and then say that they hate men or boo-hoo. Like, literally, it was like, this amount of many men have unalived themselves. That's what they said. How can you be so cruel? I don't know if it's because I have 2 sons and I love my husband, but like, I just can't imagine hating men that much. And you know what? I have been screwed over by men. Okay. I cannot imagine laughing in the face of men with bad mental health. Okay. I was going to talk about Kanye West's song that he wrote about his daughter, and I probably will save it for another video because it's a long dissection. But one of the most interesting quotes to me is that he said, like, something along the lines of, I no longer look at women to conquer, but rather protect. Let's do that right from the beginning. Let's do that right from the beginning, guys. My video from yesterday was demonetized and weirdly muted, so yeah, don't know why that could be, but tell me what you guys think about this video. Have you guys seen people online saying these terrible things, and or have you seen I've also seen women very much standing up for Men's Mental Health Month. But, and by the way, that includes men who are gay. So anyways, guys, you guys have a good one, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.